Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning on the live stream. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're calling in from, and hello to all of our folks here in Denver. We're really excited to be here this morning as we kick off Black History Month with this Black History Month roundtable discussion. This is a really exciting event for a lot of reasons. This is the first Heritage Month that we are celebrating company-wide here at Modivcare. Black History Month is one of several nationally recognized heritage months that company-wide will be recognizing our colleagues through. So stay tuned for a lot of other interesting things like this about our various communities at Modivcare. And it's also really exciting because this is one of the largest, first largest events held by an ERG. The Employee Resource Group kicked off last year, I have been told. I was not here, but I've been told they've made quite a splash in the first year. And they have planned everything around Black History Month, which is pretty incredible. And I know our other ERGs are planning their own Heritage Months as well. So you'll see a lot more to come with that. And we'll also have a little bit of information of if you're interested in joining an ERG, how you can do so. My name is Brooke Ludeman. I'm the Senior Manager of Internal Communications, and I am a member of the Women's Empowerment ERG. And I have the immense honor of serving as your moderator for today with this incredible panel of leaders from across the organization. We're going to dive into hearing from their expertise here in a little bit. But I can kind of walk through the agenda with you. There is a video that has been put together from members of the ERG about what Black History Month means to them, talking about an influential Black leader in their life, how they're celebrating Black History Month. So we'll be hearing from that. There are 46 members of the Black and African Affinity ERG. So it'll be really wonderful to hear their stories. And then we'll pitch it over here to the panel and we'll hear some similar questions, their responses to those things. So you'll get to hear from them, tell you a little bit about what else is coming up with Black History Month so you can be prepared and know where you can find that information. And then we'll tie up our afternoon or our hour together with some Q&A. So if you have questions, write them down and we will get to them shortly. I can tell you a little bit about the Black. Yeah, that's perfect. I'll start and share a little bit about the Black and African Affinity ERG. Like I said, there are 46 members strong, both as members within the Black and African Affinity community at Modivcare and also allies. There are programs and events happening all year that this group puts on. There are monthly meetings you can be a part of, and so it's a really wonderful community, as are all of our ERGs. Like I said, Black History Month, all the things that are happening over the next 28 days of February will be covered by this group. And if you want more information about how you can join an ERG, we're going to talk about it at the end of the program, but you can also email dei@modivcare.com. I'll go ahead and introduce our wonderful panel that's here with me today. Let's see, we have right next to me, Sharon Wilson, Director of Account Management. Thanks for joining us. We have Elias Simpson, President of Modivcare Mobility. Thanks for joining us. Katrina Hardy, Senior Corporate Counsel. I believe contracts is also in your title. Wonderful. Yeah. Thanks for joining us. And then finally, Nate Vaughn, our Chief Diversity Officer here at Modivcare. To fill a little bit more, are you all excited to be a part of this panel?
Absolutely. Listen, I'm excited that we got the showing that we did. It's pretty impressive. So thank you all for coming out. I would say thanks to Chidi and Marie for coordinating these efforts. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about this.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think as the sponsor for the ERG, I'm definitely very grateful for the work that Chidi and Marie and others have done to make this all come together. I'm pretty busy, as most of you know, so my support as a sponsor has been spotty at times, and they've had a ring on me and get things going. So the group as a whole is really deserves a ton of credit for getting this all together, and really Nate and I are able to just kind of support where we can, but really it's the group itself that's getting all the work done. So
yeah, I think the best part about ERGs is it's programmed by employees for employees, right?
Absolutely.
Team members are expressing what you want and making it happen. So it's really an awesome part to be a group to be a part of.
Great.
All right, I think we are ready to start the video, if that's possible. So I can kind of tee that up. Like I shared earlier, the 46 members of the Black and African Affinity ERG were asked these questions. How do you celebrate or recognize Black History Month? What does it mean to you? Is there an influential Black leader in your world or in your family that you admire? And this is what our members had to say.
To me, Black History Month is a reminder to reflect and celebrate Black history and the many contributions made by the Black community. One of the things I'm looking forward to doing is watching a HBO series called Frederick Douglass in 5 Speeches. He's one of my favorite historical figures, and I'm really just looking forward to taking some time to sit down and get a new insight into some of his more famous and influential work.
The Black figure who has influenced me and impacted me the most is my mom. My mom immigrated to the U.S. in her late 20s, and she worked mostly as a domestic. But with her domestic salary, she was able to send 3 children to college and buy a home. She truly lived what she thought was the American dream. She inspires me every day to work harder, to not be discouraged, and to dream big.
By far, the one African American who has had the most influence in my life has been Joan Tomlinson Pettiford. As an elected public official, an executive in a Fortune 50 company, she has been the critical piece in my foundation of who I am and who I model myself to be. And I'm also fortunate enough to call her mom.
When I think about Black History Month, it is a time for celebration and education. A time to not only remember, but to recognize those pioneers and trailblazers who paved the path for the advancement of freedom, justice, equality, and dignity. A time to continue educating our youth and country. An opportunity for society to continue a lifetime commitment to justice and the promotion of humanitarian efforts going forward.
Thank you again to all the members of the Black and African Affinity ERG for submitting content for that. It's really wonderful to hear everyone's stories. And I think that will transfer to hearing some of your stories and experiences. So first, Katrina, we just heard how some of our colleagues celebrate Black History Month. What are you doing to celebrate or acknowledge Black History Month?
I think it's important, before I acknowledge what I do, is to highlight the fact that Black History Month is an opportunity to curate legacy. And as a mother to young children, I try to do that every day if I possibly can, but especially during Black History Month. And so I have young kids. My daughter is 8, my son is 4. And so we do Black History puzzles. I do Black History worksheets with them, and not just during the month, but all year. But we go to museums, and I really want to make sure that they have a strong, proud legacy that they can stand on. I am a first-generation high school graduate, and so for me to work for Modivcare, a publicly traded company, is not something that's typical for people who come from where I come from. And so it's very important for me to give back and mentor and make sure that my kids have a legacy that they're proud of.
Sure, that's wonderful. I'm sure kids look forward to it every year of having these traditions.
They do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Nate, I might just kind of change it up here for a second and ask you a question. Is there an influential Black figure in your life, maybe a public figure or someone from your community who influenced you throughout your life?
Other than me, Nate.
Well, I.
We know the obvious one, but you want to share the others.
No, so I think there's many people that I could pull from. I would say the most influential person in my life by far is my father. One of 5 kids, grew up extremely poor, North New Jersey. In fact, he says he was so poor that they couldn't even afford the last 2 letters, in the word poor. So he, but I look at his life. I look at where he started from, where he is now, and it's unbelievable. The man that he is, and I get a little emotional by this, but he's really set the foundation for my brother and I, right, in so many ways. Being a father, a husband, he's someone that I could look to at each and every moment and say, man, if I'm that way, I'll be okay. I'll be okay. And he's just an absolute phenomenal person. And with every man, right, there comes a good woman, right? So my mom is also that person that I look to as well. But I would say those two people are people that I hold in very high regard and are extremely influential in my life.
Awesome. So when you're in a decision-making process, you hear your parents' voice in the back of your head. What do they say? What catchphrase maybe comes to mind? What values come to mind?
No, that's a good question, Brooke. So I would say, so I grew up in a church too, right? So very spiritual and religiously grounded. My dad and mom, they always say, handle situations with grace, right? Don't be quick to react. Really think through what it is you're going through, and navigate, those processes accordingly. So.
Yeah, that's a good piece of advice. Any other thoughts from the panel on that? That's deep. That's a good one to remember.
No, just that Nate is making me tug on my emotional heartstrings right now. And I was trying not to get emotional today, but it is an emotional topic. It's just a lot to take in.
Sure.
For me, I know it's not my turn yet.
No, please do. Please do.
Black History Month for me is just not a month. Black history is American history, which is what I teach my children. So I know you have a question for me.
No, go on. What do you do?
The most influential person to me, and my mom, she came to America with a bag and a dream to explore opportunities to take care of her family when she got to America and then back in Jamaica. And I got to tell you, she just experienced so much adversity being an African-American woman and an immigrant with a heavy accent. My mom worked a minimum wage job till the day she passed away, and she worked her job with a smile on her face. So even days that she didn't have it, you wouldn't know because she had a smile on her face. I know the days that she couldn't afford to feed everyone in the house. She will wait for everyone to eat and see whose plate had some leftovers, and that's what she would eat. But the message here is she did it with a smile and grace. So even when she experienced some negative backlash, she didn't react in a negative way. Let it slide as she pushed through. So what I teach my children, failure is not an option. If you experience an adversity in your life, experience an obstacle, how are you going to get over that obstacle? So when my children come to me with an issue or a complaint, what have you done? What are you going to do? And make sure you do it with a smile on your face, because what? Failure is not an option. And that's what my mom taught me.
Love that. Yeah. Any other family members that come to mind for you too?
Oh man, grandmother comes to mind for sure. My grandmother was like the kind of held the family together, and was definitely like the matriarch of our family, and was a single mother, and very similar, worked a ton of different jobs throughout her life, but her whole life was basically dedicated to me and my brothers and my cousins and making sure that we were going to be all right. And everything she did was about that. So, we being military kids, we'd move, and my mom was a single mother as well. So we'd move, and grandmother would move with us. And, I tell people stories about, both my mom and my grandmother worked. And so they both worked in hospitals. And when I was a kid, my grandmother would take us to the hospital, and we would sleep in one of the empty hospital beds and then get up and go to school in the morning. And just thinking about all the things that they did to make sure that we were okay is definitely a big deal.
Yeah. That sacrifice of those that came before us is incredible. Yeah.
I think for me, I would say two teachers. One is Mr. Kevin Williams, and the other is Ms. Helen Kirkendall. And so these teachers, I think, are very instrumental into me being who I am today, because they saw something in me very young, and they helped cultivate and push that. Ms. Kirkendall, she was my third grade teacher, and we still keep in touch to this day. And she pulled me aside and she made sure that I got extra attention and pushed me to, apply for different programs or apply for different scholarships. Mr. Williams ran a program called Options for Preteens. And the whole premise of the program was identifying students and giving them leadership skills, exposing them to different cultural things, and to put them on a path to go to college. And I say, and I keep in touch with both of these people today. And I think they've been very influential in my life and in my success that I've experienced in life.
Awesome. I'm going to throw everyone here a curveball and ask, we're hearing this mentorship line come up through all of your stories. How do you, in your current positions with your lived experiences, how do you serve as mentors for others? What are some of the things that you pass on?
Yeah, so I would say for me, I have a very large family, right? Who they look up to me, right? They want to know what I do. They want to know how I've gotten to where I've gotten to, and I'm always looking back, with a hand ready to pull them up. I think for me, exposure is everything, right? It's not good enough just to tell somebody how to get to where they need to be. You got to show them, right? You got to talk and tell them about the opportunities that are out there. And I not only do that for my family, I do that for friends of my kids, right? So I think every opportunity that I can, I'm giving back in ways that I feel would be beneficial for those folks.
Yeah, I think for me, there's mentorship, and I try to mentor both within kind of my professional life, personal life. I do a lot of work with like the Boys and Girls Club and Veterans Foundations and things like that. So I try to support there. I think also sponsorship's important, right? And I'm fortunate enough to be in a position that I can help others be successful, and so giving folks a platform that they can be successful is really important for me. So I think it's great when you actually, to Nate's point, like kind of reach back and pull people along with you. So I think sponsorship's really important. So I try to keep that in mind. What can I actually do to put somebody in a position to be successful and maybe give somebody an opportunity that they otherwise wouldn't have been.
I mean, look, I've mentored Elias.
That's awesome. I think that's great.
Sarah's mentoring me right now.
It's a give and take, right? It's a mutual relationship.
Piggyback on that, for me, both personally and professionally, I try to target teenagers. Teenagers think they're so invincible, especially teen girls. I teach them confidence. If you're confident, everything else will fall into place. When you walk with your head up high. When you're speaking with somebody, give them eye contact. So every time I grab a hold of a teenage girl, I'll shake their hand. If it's not firm, your handshake needs to be firm. When I'm speaking with you, give me eye contact. So I think when you teach confidence, many other pieces of the puzzle falls into place. So that's how I mentor. I target the teenage girls.
I love that.
I too was Sharon. So I have, I think, 13 nieces. And so every year we have an annual auntie niece retreat. And we talk about things like that. We talk about preparing for your career, preparing for your future, just being a whole person. I also mentor students from my former law school right now who are trying to, new into law school, trying to find jobs or internships and make those connections.
I love that.
You take all 13?
They come to my house. Yeah. But they're lovely. They're all sweet.
I'm going to do one more curveball along this line. Kind of tying this back to Black History Month. What would you share, as you've all served as mentors to other people? What's a piece of advice that you share to young Black leaders, maybe in the Modivcare family or starting out their careers? What would you share with them?
I would say it's important to be your authentic self and to do that very early on in your career. I think being a minority in a corporate environment, sometimes it's very difficult to know which person to bring to work and trying to limit who you are. And I can remember one time I worked for a company and there was no one else who looked like me on the level that I was at. And I was preparing to go out of town and I agonized for months about whether or not if I could get braids in my hair or how that would be perceived, right? And so I finally made the decision to just do it. and everybody liked it, but it was like a thing where I had to think about that for months. And so after that moment, I said, I'm going to be myself. I'm going to be professional. My work is going to speak for itself. But in order for me to really strive at work, I have to be able to bring my full self. And so that's what I would say to young leaders.
Thank you.
For me, it would be the word can't. When you tell me or anybody else that I'm trying to mentor in my family, you can't, give me a good reason why I can't. Can't is such a powerful word. And if you're going to come with can't, come with your facts. And then we're going to get rid of your facts. Change that.
Very good.
So you can.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, some advice I got early in my career and I lived by, and I know probably Matt and others have heard me say it, is, manage your career or someone else will. I think it's really important that you're strong in your convictions about what it is you want to do. And I think to Sharon's point, kind of making sure that nothing gets in the way of that. The unfortunate reality of it is that you're going to face obstacles, right? So I think that's important to be, that's a reality. And I think it's important to say that, like where we are today is not, it's much better than where we've been, but it's still not where we need to be. And so whether you're a woman, a minority, whatever it may be, you're going to face obstacles. But I think it's important not to let those obstacles stop you from trying to achieve what it is that you want to achieve. And for me, that's an important part of Black History Month, is that we wouldn't be here without somebody not giving up. Right? Like people kept fighting, people kept believing, people kept persevering, and for me, it's about that. It's about not giving up, and it's about staying resilient and staying perseverant. I was asked one time about stereotypes, and I struggle with Black stereotypes because there's not a lot of positive Black stereotypes. Like we're athletes, we're rappers. Some of us are athletes anyway, but there's not enough positive Black stereotypes. And one of the ones that I think should be a stereotype is that Black people are very resilient. Like we have persevered and gone through so much, and that's what Black History Month is about to me, is that celebrating everything everybody accomplished, remembering everything that everybody went through, and then honoring the fact that people persevered, and on both sides of the fence. By the way, there was allies, there was folks themselves. So for me, I think that's really important to make sure that throughout your career you stay, and throughout your life, really, like when you face obstacles, when you face challenges, knowing that you can persevere and that there's a brighter day ahead. So.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I think the panel pretty much summed it up, but I think the only couple of things I would add is performance is not everything. I would say to network. Find allyship in others that don't look like you.
Sure.
Right? Because there are good people out there who want to see you do well. And I think it's important to find those individuals, connect with them, and collaborate and build your career. So yeah, that's a couple of things I would add.
That's great. Thank you.
Performance isn't everything, but it matters.
Sure.
Performance is a given, right?
Right.
That's actually been one of the frustrations that I've run into in my career, is that sometimes you get somebody who looks like you, so they think you're just going to take care of them because they look like you. And the reality of it is that you got to do your job. If you're not good at your job, then that is what it is. So I think that's another reality that everybody should face is, you have to do your part as an individual, and you have to have some self accountability, and not just expect others to do for you, but you have to think about, what am I doing for myself, and what am I doing to make sure that I show up. So that would be the other part of my message.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to bring us back on script before Chidi pulls me off the stage. Sharon, you talked about the influential Black figure in your family. That's my question for you. Is there anything else you wanted to add to that?
I think we all talked about a lot of things that are powerful and meaningful.
I agree.
3 words. Failure is not an option, no matter who you are. Push through. Don't let people tell you you can't. You can. Within reason, you can. Failure is not an option.
Love that. Elias, I guess you kind of spoke to this too, but my question for you is, what does Black History Month mean to you? Is there anything else that you would share with the group?
No, I think, like I said, I think it's about celebration and recognition. I think, like Sharon said, it's about that it's more than just Black history, it's American history. I consider myself a Black American. I don't know my heritage. Just quick story, my grandfather was born on the plantation my family was slaves on. So, I don't know anything other than America. So I very much identify as an American. So for me, Black history is American history. So I think that's really important. Yeah, and then I think it's also just, we're still in history, right? This is somebody else's future history, right?
Yeah.
So whether it be our kids, our grandkids, so it's still very important what we're all doing today, because what we're all doing today is going to be a part of history. And so we need to be thinking about that, making the right decisions, and thinking about how we're going to make the world a better place for the next generation, just like others did for us.
That's a great perspective. Okay, so we talked a little bit about, experiences, past stories. Let's take 2023 Modivcare. What are you excited about? And this question is for anyone that would want to respond. What are you excited about at Modivcare in 2023 related to DEI work?
Yeah, I guess I'll start off by saying all of the ERGs that we have up and running in a matter of 6 months, pretty impressive. 7 ERGs that we now have at Modivcare. Got to give a big shout out to Sinead and Renita for helping with those efforts. But ERGs are incredibly powerful, to any organization, right? They give folks within an organization a real voice to talk about some of their concerns, elevate one another. And I'm just happy now that we have these ERGs in place so we can begin to do that. Last year, we weren't doing this, right? In fact, we had a national meeting on MLK Day, right? So we're progressing thanks to Heath Grover, who now MLK is a company holiday for us. Juneteenth is a company holiday for us. So I'm just incredibly excited about the steps forward, we are making to make this company a more inclusive company and a company that truly values belonging.
Well, thank you. As the
Did I set you up well?
As the co-chair of the Female Empowerment ERG, we have a lot planned for March, but I'm really excited to announce that with the leadership of both Nate and Grover, we've partnered with a company called the Velvet Suite. We are going to be providing dynamic leadership training to women to help them get to the next level. And so we have a lot of announcements that will be coming out about that, as well as spotlighting different women within the organization to highlight the efforts and the work that they do to make Modivcare a better place for all. So we're really excited about those.
Maybe some cross collab between the different ERGs.
Yes. So we do have some events in mind, especially with the Pride group and as well as the Black and African Ancestry Affinity group. We have some ideas in mind and some other ERGs, but those events will be announced very soon.
Exciting. It's an exciting time.
Yeah, just quickly add, I think for me, when I look at the organization that we're a part of, there's not a better opportunity to make an impact from a diversity, equity, and inclusion perspective, because it's literally a part of what we do. So we don't even have to do things outside of a lot of our day-to-day jobs to be making an impact. And so I think, figuring out how we just capture that and do more of that and make sure that we're doing that the right way is something that I'm excited about in 2023. Again, a lot of companies have philanthropic efforts on the side or foundational time. What we do is literally built around equity and inclusion, right? So I'm just really excited about continuing to progress in that way.
Great.
Mine is pretty simple. I'm just thankful for the leadership team, Elias, Nate, Heath, Grover, allowing our voice to be heard, allowing us to be seen. That simple.
Especially for us.
Especially. Finally, I think I'm really new.
I mean, I'm in the middle.
That's true. I think one of my first weeks with Modivcare, I had met you, or we had a meeting or something, and you shared representation matters, and it does.
Yeah,
I think that underpins everything with our ERGs.
absolutely.
Wonderful. All right, well, we will have some time for Q&A here in a second, but I'm going to wrap up some more things here before we tab into that. There's more to come with Black History Month. This kicks it off. This is just the beginning. I do want to call to attention a few things. There we go. We'll be having a few, the Black and African Affinity ERG and its members will be having a food drive in both Massachusetts and Buffalo, so keep an eye out for that. There are posts for by the ERG on their Viva Engage page. I know across the organization there are some teams that have access to this already and some that do not. So if you do not have access to Viva Engage, stay tuned and pay attention to your newsletters, and we'll make sure that there is information on how to engage with these different projects and different groups in all of the different newsletters, as well as on Viva Engage. And for those who may not be familiar with Viva Engage, it's a component of Teams. So go hunting for Viva Engage. You'll have a wealth of knowledge at your fingertips. And then finally, there's going to be a wrap party on March 1st in the Atlanta office. We were on a planning call earlier. It is not a wrap party. It is a wrap as in showbiz, the end party.
Even though everybody was excited to see Marie rap.
Yeah, we were really excited.
And Sharon, I think Sharon actually has a track out there
I was
somewhere.
gonna say, we do have some sideshow entertainment already ready for the wrap party. So we'll see what actually happens when it happens. But on March 1st, that is, like I said, in the Atlanta office. So we'd love to see.
By the way, I thought we were going like full, when they told me we were having a rap session, I was like, wow, we're going all the way with that. Okay.
Alrighty, and then just in closing remarks, folks of the panel, are there any closing remarks from you? Any final thoughts?
Here's what I'll say. And you kind of corrected yourself just a minute ago when you said we'll be throwing a party. Like
We will. Yeah.
Yeah, I want you to be a part of it. And it's important to know that this ERG is not an exclusive group, right? This is very inclusive, right? So we want allyship from all races, all ethnicities. This is not just a Black ERG. Same with female empowerment, right? We want it to be very inclusive. So I just wanted to point that out. Sometimes people don't really understand or know about ERGs, and they think that it's, this exclusive group of individuals formulating these groups, and it's not that at all. So we welcome allyship for all of the ERGs within Modivcare.
Thank you for calling that out. I appreciate it. Any other final thoughts from the panel?
Just again, thank you to everyone who made this possible. So there was a lot of hard work put in, and I want to point out that for most of the people who are putting this together, this is not their full-time job. So, people are putting in extra hours, taking calls after hours, and still doing their day job and doing it effectively to make this happen. So really appreciate all the support and all the efforts from everybody who's part of the ERG, the support from the comms team and HR teams and everywhere else to make this happen, the EAs who helped us put together the event as well. So thank you all so much for your support.
Okay, you have a few more things. There will be a survey dropped in the Teams chat, I believe, now for those who are online or watching this afterwards. We'll also make sure you have the link where we invite you to just tell us about your experience here. I invite you to participate, give us feedback. That's how we continue to improve these things and continue to do more. So we invite you to please participate in that survey that's dropped in the chat. Also a note that resources are going to be sent out after this, I was about to say performance, good job, performance. After this meeting, both the recording and then also information about the ERG, an ERG FAQ will be attached, information about how you can join an ERG. We hope we have put enough teasers out there that you want to join an ERG. So we'll share that information with you shortly. I believe those are my last housekeeping pieces. So with that, we'll open it up for the Q&A if anyone in the room has questions.
Also, I think we're gonna be having some. There's a catered event upstairs. Right?
Yeah, that's for the. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you wanted to mention that.
Yeah, so for folks who are here, we do invite you to join us on the 12th floor in community after this to just chat about the panel, chat about other things, chat about Black History Month, and join us for some refreshments from a local Black-owned business. All right. Are there any questions online or in the room? Yeah.
For the panel, did any of you ever experience a career breakthrough moment where you were finally seen as your whole self?
I definitely have one. And it's mine. I'm going to embarrass somebody, but at my previous company, I was hired to lead some fulfillment centers and other distribution facilities and whatnot within the company. And at that point in my career, I had, I'm like a senior director, VP level type at that point in my career, but I hadn't quite broken through to that executive level. And I had a manager who hired me, and I could tell just in interacting with him that he didn't see me as anything other than a talented individual on his team who had some potential. And I remember, we went to lunch one day and we're talking and we're just talking about life and we're talking about everything. He's like, I see myself working for you someday. And it was just this whole full circle conversation of somebody who kind of made me comfortable. To Katrina's point, at that point in my career, the sport coat was like attached to my body. I never wore my sneakers or did anything. I never listened to my music in the car. I didn't want anybody to think of me as too Black. And I got comfortable mainly with this individual, which then allowed me to get comfortable with the rest of the organization. And I think being your authentic self makes you so much more productive because you're not worried about, there's a whole thing about double consciousness and all the energy it takes to constantly walk in the room and wonder, am I dressed appropriately? Are people, concerned about the fact that I'm Black or this or a woman or whatever, right? And so getting that off my plate allowed me to just kind of accelerate and just do my job and not worry about those other things. But that was Matt Snyder that hired me, by the way. So he's in the room. So, you talk about the importance of relationships. Here we are today at a new company working together once again. So, it truly was not just a career accelerator, but just a life moment that stuck with me forever.
I think for me, I would say my transition to Modivcare. I had been in my career and I knew that I was talented and I knew that I was well respected and well liked, but I felt like in a lot of ways I was like a token, right? And so when I interviewed for Modivcare, one of the very first questions I asked was, will I be able to bring my full self to work? Because I'm at a stage in my career where I can't do both and I need to be somewhere where I'm going to have to buy in. And Jennifer will tell you that I asked that question. I asked about, what are you guys doing about diversity, equity, and inclusion? Because I want to be somewhere where that's part of the culture. And so I took that power in that interview. I did not have to leave my last job, but if I was going to move, I was going to make sure I moved in power. And so I think that for me was the transition, and I've just held on to it and, running with scissors.
Yeah, so I would say, and I'll call out the company. My breakthrough was with GE. Incredible leadership. I felt supported. Kind of to Elijah's point earlier, color really wasn't an issue. They wanted to develop talented people, right? And when they saw talent, they took you under their wing and got you what you needed. So that was probably my breakthrough company, and I had my breakthrough moments with GE.
My breakthrough moment, a lot of people don't know this. I worked for United Healthcare for 22 years in the account management area. They sent me out to a very rural part of Georgia to do an open enrollment meeting. The only Black person in the room, and I started giving the presentation, and there was a heckler in the back, really angry man, saying he will not be told about his benefits by a Black person. I continued to present the benefits. After the meeting, I went up to him. I said, what really is the issue? Do you not understand your benefits? What is the issue? The issue is he had so many bills piled up with healthcare issues. And despite the fact that he did not want me to help him, okay, I'll let you help me. I helped him. By the time I was finished speaking to him about his bills, how to understand his bills, I didn't feel like there was a black and white thing. It was just an understanding thing. So the breakthrough for me was being able to communicate to somebody who didn't want to be communicated to, but he listened because of how I approached him.
We're gonna have time for one more question. Sure.
I'm interested in knowing how everybody in this room and everybody on TV help support you in being anti-racist. And so if you could share maybe some of the best experiences and needs support that you've had throughout your career, so I can learn from that and also incorporate it in my solution.
Yeah, so what I will say is, somebody else?
Yeah, I was getting
Oh,
excited. Mine is simple.
Yeah.
People say, I don't see color. All I ask is that you see color, embrace color. That simple. See color and embrace it.
I would say have real conversations. Like if you have a question about something, to do with race, like have the honest conversation, right? But do so in a very diplomatic way. I mean, but I think having real and honest conversations with folks breaks down a lot of walls. Just a quick story here. So originally from Newark, New Jersey, right? Parents didn't want to raise my brother and I there anymore, so we moved to someplace completely different, Kingsport, Tennessee. So we went from one of the most diverse areas in this country to one of the least diverse cities in the country. Through that, I experienced all kinds of things. Was called more names outside of my name, my own name that I care to talk about. But through that, I developed so many relationships, good relationships, just talking with folks that were different than me. And one thing that we all, came to the conclusion of, we're all similar in a lot of ways, right? We're more similar than we are different. So I think just having a good understanding of who you are and being able to convey that in a very diplomatic way get you along.
Yeah, I think, you're taking the first step by being here, right? And I think always taking the first step is the hardest. So that for me is, at some point you have to lean in and you have to engage. So I think that's important. And I think something that he's been preaching and that is really good is allow for like grace, to Nate's earlier point as well. Mistakes will be made. You'll say things that maybe you didn't understand, or you'll ask a question, and don't be afraid to, and I think we all have to have that same level of patience and tolerance for the fact that through this journey, people are going to ask questions, and you have to be willing to hear those questions. You can't be easily offended or easily, dismiss others or whatever it may be. So I think having that patience with one another and that understanding with one another as we all work through this together, because none of us have all the answers. If one of us had all the answers, we wouldn't be working at Modivcare. We'd be leaving the country or something. Well, actually, I take that back. No. But be leaving Modivcare. But if somebody had the answers, they would have already solved all of this. So I think that recognition that none of us really know the answers and being patient with one another and understanding with one another is super important.
I would agree. I think having certain conversations are very difficult, even for like me to try to approach someone and, I feel like it's like a microaggression or something like that. Like for me to even approach the conversation, it's difficult because I don't want to make other people feel uncomfortable, but I also want to call out things when I see them so that it doesn't continue to happen. So like if someone does approach you, not being immediately offensive, but saying, okay, how can we unpack this together? Because I think that's the goal. We all have to work together and get along. And sometimes, just because of our natural biases or how we were raised, it comes out in conversation or in communication. So just if someone approaches you, just being open to the conversation and at least trying to find common ground or middle ground, I think that's important. Jennifer, you are a rock star. I think you are super awesome. From the moment I started, you've been more than supportive. So I do appreciate having you as a leader.
I know you there.
Well, with that, we want to be respectful of your time, and we are at time. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who attended. Thank you to our incredible panel for your vulnerability, for your stories. And again, we do hope this is just the beginning of the discussion. So stay tuned for an email on the information we promised earlier. And thank you for being here today.